the Memorial Day weekend, which will put the safety of local reopened economies to test, while health experts resound the alarm, over another potential coronavirus wave later this year. Now, in response to the warning, President Trump told reporters yesterday the U.S. will not shut down if a second outbreak were to hit the country.
People say that's a very distinct possibility. It's standard, and we're going to put out the fires. We're not going to close the country. We're going to put out the fires. There could be, whether it's an ember or a flame, we're going to put it out. But we're not closing our country.
Ben Tracy is following the very latest on this. Ben, what are you hearing from the White House as to the president's reasoning? Understandably, a lot of Americans would like to see a return to normalcy, but until there is a vaccine and until people actually start to put into place some of the recommendations the CDC has made, like, for example, wearing a mask, which the president refused to do yesterday, this resurgence of the coronavirus could hit people very, very hard. What are you hearing as to why the president doesn't feel that another lockdown will be necessary?
Well, the president has often downplayed the odds of a second wave of coronavirus. He has said that perhaps we don't even need a vaccine because this will simply go away. That is at odds with what we're hearing from the director of the CDC, what we've heard from Dr. Anthony Fauci, who have both said it is most likely that this will come back, possibly with a vengeance, this fall or winter, and that coupled with flu season, that could be a real problem if we don't have a vaccine by then. So the president's on a slightly different page from his own medical experts, which we have seen before. But in terms of the lockdown, it's clear that the president never wanted to go along with these lockdowns to begin with, and the odds of him going down that path again are slim to none. But we should also keep in mind that it's really not up to the president to lock down the country. He didn't do that this last time. Governors decided in their own states the degree to which they were going to lock things down. So this narrative that the president locked things down and now is reopening them really isn't true. That is done on a state-by-state level.
So when we got that sort of most recent CDC guidelines on reopening, a lot of people were wondering why churches were not included. And now we're hearing that we are going to get some guidance from the administration about churches and church gatherings. Do we know anything about that and why it's happening now?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of back and forth between the CDC and the White House on these guidelines in terms of just how detailed they should be. A lot of pushback from the White House saying we don't want to be too prescriptive. We don't want to give too much advice because we really don't want to put too many roadblocks in the way of governors and local officials deciding how to reopen and to reopen quickly. So the CDC did come out with these more detailed guidelines that give advice for everything from reopening schools and daycares to bars and restaurants, but churches were missing from that. And we did ask around here at the White House, and I was told by a senior administration official that the White House rejected the guidelines that the CDC provided about churches, that the White House asked for revisions because they were too detailed. We are expecting that revised guidance to come out today, and you should expect that churches are going to be given quite a bit of autonomy to reopen as they see fit.
Ben, during his visit to the Michigan Ford factory yesterday, the president was seen without a mask in front of reporters. What are you hearing from the White House as to why he engaged with reporters in the way that he did, holding the mask in his hand? How did Ford respond, and how did the governor of Michigan respond?
Well, the explanation that the president gave at the Ford plant was that he wore a mask in private, but he did not want to give the reporters there the satisfaction, I think he said the word pleasure, of seeing him wear it. Some photographs did surface of the president briefly wearing a mask, but clearly President Trump has never been seen wearing a mask in public. These pictures are the first time we've actually ever seen that, and he has often made fun of people here at the White House, reporters in particular, who are wearing masks. Even the day that the administration announced the suggestion that all Americans wear one, the president made it very clear that he did not plan to wear one. So this is a long-standing thing with him about masks. But this is a really interesting experience that he had yesterday, because it was made clear to him before he got there that the policy of the plant, a very strict policy, was that masks are required. Ford told the president that. The governor of Michigan said, we expect you to wear a mask. The attorney general of Michigan said it is the law of the state that you do so. And apparently when he got there, the chairman of Ford, Bill Ford, said to the president, you're going to wear the mask. And the president said, yeah, I'm going to wear the mask. And then the president took it off. And according to sources at Ford, that really took them by surprise because they did think that he was going to follow through on what he told them and continue to wear it. The president at one point said that he was given the option to wear it. And sources at Ford say that is not true, that he was not told that. But once he took it off, there really isn't much they can do. They're not going to kick him out of the plant.
Before you go, I want to ask you about the administration's decision to pull out of the Open Skies Treaty. Just remind our viewers what that is and, what the possible fallout is or the implications of making this choice and why.
Sure. So this is a 3-decade-old treaty that includes about 35 countries, and what this allows is you to fly unarmed surveillance planes over another country's territory, and usually what you do with that information is to kind of monitor troop movements, troop buildups, development of weapons, that sort of thing, to monitor if a country is planning to attack another country. And I guess the thought process is if you have kind of more openness about this, that would perhaps some countries would decide not to take those measures. The U.S. has decided to pull out of this, and President Trump feels that Russia has violated the terms of this deal by not allowing flights over certain parts of its territory. So the thought process here at the White House is if Russia's not going to play by the same rules as everybody else, why should we? The complicating factor here is this does make things awkward for our NATO allies, who are most of the other countries involved in this treaty and who are much closer to Russia. So if Russia were now to say, well, if the U.S. isn't in this anymore, then we're out too, Russia would then conceivably not allow any of those flights over its territory, which would be a bigger issue for those countries that are right on its border.
All right, Ben Tracy, thank you very much.
Thanks.